It's all right. We are all here. So, yeah, I've been talking to some of you as we come in, but what a difference a week makes. If you think about what our general mindsets were a week ago, who would have thought that a week later schools would be seriously considering about whether we're even going to be in school tomorrow and for how long and all of that. When I saw Southern had shut down until through their spring break and then until they're doing 2 weeks of online afterwards, was waiting for, well, Central's a little different because they're completing this week.
Oh, okay.
And then going on break and then going to online classes after. Southern's just done. They're, as of today, I think it was as of 4 o'clock today or something, everyone had to be out of the dorms and off campus. And
so we have the 2 lines that
Yeah.
2 weeks after our break will be online.
so, yeah, so the,
Yeah, you're getting an email. You got an email saying that next week is spring break and then the 2 weeks after that, everything's online. Okay.
there will be no in-person classes for at least the first 2 weeks back after spring break. So, yeah, I mean, there's going to be a lot of blending tonight between the 2 classes, and I'm going to have my own brain not keep the 2 straight. But we are, that is the official word right now. So we got tonight in, which I think is good, because tonight is actually going to put us in a pretty good situation if we can't be together for the foreseeable future. So I'm really glad that we were able to get tonight in. But yeah, the official word is that we have this week. Next week is spring break, has always been spring break. And then officially right now for 2 weeks after spring break, so that's April 5th is the current date that they've said. All classes, if they meet, must meet online instead of in person. So that's the that's the 2 weeks for now.
Okay.
But there's a big asterisk around that April 5th. Everyone is saying, until updates. So they could get a week from now or 3 days from now. And if things blow up, they may say, there are some, I don't think in Connecticut yet, but in Massachusetts, there are some colleges that have already just canceled the rest of the school year. Like they are not back on campus
Harvard and
until,
Amherst have said you have until Friday to get your stuff out. Sorry.
yeah.
Do you get a
And then
refund on that, at least on your housing?
Probably not.
I don't know how that works.
You think so? Your food, you're paying for like food? I
Yeah.
don't know why I'm getting indignant.
So-
I'm anticipating that happening for myself.
Yeah.
But like,
So in any case, so what for our gaming class, I think it's obviously impacts the gaming class more than the other one. I'm going to need to take a look, and I'll be evaluating from week to week to week. But we're going to be able to leave here tonight with each group having gotten some good feedback and some good information about what they need to do next. And a big piece for that project for the next several weeks is just doing the developing, and that's something where we can be working. You can be meeting with your small groups or meeting virtually with your small groups and having those discussions through email and chat and whatever other means you need. In terms of sort of my piece of instructional content, the only other really big thing we haven't really addressed yet is the gamification project. And we are going to start off tonight by doing a quick introduction to that. I figured while I have everybody here, I want to talk a little bit about that and kind of set the stage for that. There's not going to be, there's one task over the next couple of weeks that will get us started on that project, but nothing official in terms of instructional design or anything. That'll come when we would have returned after spring break, but that I can kind of move online relatively easily. And that particular project, the only thing that really needed to be done in person with that was going to be sort of a presentation of those gamification activities once you had completed them. And even that is something which I think we could move pretty easily into some sort of an online environment, either through WebEx or Zoom or something like that. So I will make sure to keep you guys posted from week to week about what's happening and what we're going to be doing. But I do feel like, at least roughly looking ahead, and again, the university just made this decision today, so I'm still working through everything. But I do feel like after tonight, we will be in pretty good shape to kind of manage whatever we need to manage for the remainder of the semester if need be. I mean, if they say, that's it, we're done on campus for the semester, I think we can still make everything work between here and then. We just might miss a couple of opportunities in person to do some of these direct conversations or to do some sharing or whatnot, but we're all gonna have to be flexible. Like I was telling people, my daughter's two big things in the next 2 weeks, which were our Odyssey of the Mind state competition, canceled, and she was selected for the Northern Region Honors Chorus, and that's canceled. The All-State Music Festival is done in conference. The All-State Conference is done, so all of our students who had auditioned and made it into All-State. The New England Music Festival, which is all the New England states, canceled. Like, it's like all of a sudden this very, very busy, and I manage our school's auditorium, and I took a look through the calendar today, and basically what was going to be a very busy month and a half is now completely wiped out. Like every event that was going to be in there that I was going to be managing is now gone. So it's really kind of weird. Like in a way I'm like, yeah, I get this time back. And then I'm going, but I get paid hourly for my auditorium work. Yeah, there goes that paycheck. So it's, pluses and minuses. So anyway, so we'll all just be flexible and we'll make it work. Honestly, in some ways, especially with it occurred to me that the 5:30 class, especially, this is like right up our alley now. Like all of a sudden we've got this great practical case study of distance learning. There's been, because the university's guidelines were, we need to move classes online, and the faculty list servers suddenly lit up with all these faculty going, you said WebEx, what's WebEx? How do I know how to use WebEx? Do my students know how to use WebEx? Like, and the university is doing a good job of offering all this week. They're offering open training sessions like every day for WebEx, for Blackboard, for
busy too.
What's that?
Sorry to interrupt, but Michael's probably really busy too.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah. So, but all these faculty members who have never had to even consider doing an online environment are now all of a sudden faced with, I've got to do an online environment, and how do I do that? So the fact that we are already set up and already kind of know, and the fact that we are learning how to do online instruction, it's a very meta moment for me. I've been trying to explain to my students, like, my university is telling me to teach this class online. That is a class where I'm teaching teachers how to teach online. And it gets into this circular thing of
No one is better
all
prepared
this.
than we are.
So, yeah, we're in good shape. So I feel good about where we are. So, all right. So because I do want to get into tonight, because we are squishing the two classes together tonight, and I'm going to do everything I can to get us through as efficiently as possible. Powtoons. I was hoping to start to look at Powtoons this past week, but the other piece is we've had to cancel our spring music trip, so there's been a lot of other things I've been involved with at school. I have not had a chance to look at the Powtoons officially. I will look at those over the next couple of weeks. That's one of my homework assignments. Now that I don't have auditorium things to manage, I will have plenty of time to look at people's projects. So I will be taking a look at those sort of officially. As I mentioned tonight, I'm going to at least introduce this gamification piece, which honestly, now that we've got a good handle on what a game is, gamification it's in terms of knowing what it is, it's going to be really simple. We aren't going to have to spend much time on that. So we'll do that. And then obviously the big thing tonight is to get some feedback from the other groups. We're going to do a kind of a little round robin tournament, couple of rounds. So each group will have had people in their group that have looked at the other two games being done, and each group will have had people from each of the other groups looking at their project and getting some feedback there. So we're going to go through that, and you'll get a chance to kind of debrief with your group after those discussions have happened, so you can get some plans looking forward. And then I'll just talk about sort of what the next steps are with the games and developing them and what you need to do. So that'll be this piece of it. And then just for my own brain, we'll keep the 520 piece of it, or sorry, the 530 piece of it. See, I already did it. For when we start that, which will be whatever, in an hour or something like that. All right, any questions so far? I'm feeling a little frazzled myself tonight, and I usually do. Don't get super frazzled, but it's one of those. All right, so let's start by, let me start with gamification. Let's get this kind of out of the way because I think this I can deal with relatively quickly. So from the beginning of this course, we had this weird word of gamification that we knew was going to be a part of what we're doing. And early on, I had asked you to do a forum post where you took sort of your best guess at what gamification might be. And a lot of you, honestly, kind of were at least in the right state when it came to what gamification is. And probably by this point, having now done even what we've done with the game projects, you probably even could come up with even a closer description of what gamification might be. Does anybody want to give it a shot in terms of at this point, if we say, you know, we're going to gamify this or we're going to engage in gamifying something, what might that involve?
I mean, to me, it just,
No, go for it.
I don't know, I mean, you're just,
Oops. Sorry, just go ahead.
I don't know. I lost some of this confidence, I thought.
Turn something into a game. I was gonna say, or maybe it doesn't need all the qualifications of a game, maybe it's like parts of them, like maybe you don't have the ambiguous decision, or maybe you don't have the, you know, like, I feel like gamification is missing something versus the game.
Yeah.
It could be really far off.
Is there really an end game to it?
Right. Well, so yeah. I mean, you've just kind of hit the nail on the head right there. So, gamification or to gamify something. I know it sounds like a made-up word. It kind of is, but it's a made-up word that now has become a real word. So it is something you can do to something. So there's an existing thing, an existing activity that you are going to gamify, and it's sort of exactly that. You're not literally creating a game, but we are taking some activity that already exists, and we are somehow introducing some of the elements of game into that activity. So I'll say introducing elements of games into an existing activity. So as someone was just saying, well, maybe there's not an end game. Yeah, so it could be that. I mean, you could have a system of rules and people competing and they're making decisions, but there's no established end game to it. So then it just becomes like an open-ended activity that you can keep doing for as long as you need to, but there's no winners, there's no declared endpoint. Or maybe there's not really competition. Maybe it's just rules where decisions are being made to try to reach something. So you can get into all sorts of different combinations of that, but that's the basic idea is that, games are this, but we can do some of this stuff to other activities to modify them in certain ways. And by doing that, we're bringing those pieces of gaming into that activity without having to actually go the full 10 yards and turn it into an actual game. Why might we do this?
Make it more interesting.
Yeah, it's usually it all boils down to this. The main time when activities are gamified, it's because the activity in and of itself sort of lacks inherent motivational content. So what we know about games and the gaming mentality is that most games are fun and interesting in and of themselves. Like the whole point of playing the game is to play the game. So there's something about that element of competition or that element of working within that framework of rules that just makes things more interesting to us. So if you have an existing activity that is not very motivational in and of itself, typically the reason that they get gamified is to try to build in some of that intrinsic motivation, trying to make the thing more interesting so that people want to do it, whereas without those elements, they may not want to do it. That may not be the only reason to gamify, but that is certainly the overwhelming majority of the cases when you look at them. So what might an example be? Take a boring activity that maybe you have.
Taking surveys.
All right, this is a good one because in the business world, what do businesses want? They want data. They want to know who you are. They want to know how you think. They want to know, and so the main way to do that is to survey, is to ask you a bunch of questions. So how does how could you gamify a survey? Oh, another survey. Why do I want to take this survey? You could have a prize, right? And maybe it's not even a literal prize. I know from the Microsoft world, so they want people to learn how to use Microsoft products. So they have Microsoft Innovative Educator, MIE program. And when you complete their little online modules about a thing, you get points. And when you earn a certain number of points, you get a badge. And you can put that badge on your website, or you can send that badge to your district IT manager to show that you earned 1,000 points towards being an MIE certified educator. None of that has any impact on what they were teaching you or anything like that. But by introducing that element of gaming, of earning badges, of reaching thresholds, of that sort of element of competition, they're hoping that it makes people on their own want to take more of their classes and learn more about Microsoft, so that, ergo, in the end, people buy more Microsoft products and they earn more money. But a lot of businesses have done things like that. Any of these rewards systems you get at stores, you earn points. I'm doing something. Well, what you're doing is you're spending more money in their store, and they're just letting you keep track of how much money you've spent because they give you X number of points, and then you get a coupon. You get 10%, on your next purchase, and you go in and you realize, okay, so I saved $4. I still ended up spending $50 in the store, but I saved $4 because I go and shop here a lot.
Or it's just tracking, so they don't over purchase those things. Like when you were doing like a lot of those cards, even if you're not getting points, like they're tracking every
Oh,
single
sure.
thing you do. So it's like
So
you want the discount, that potential discount.
So when you get the 10 yards of register tape at the
Oh my God.
at the
CVS.
CVS, and you look on the back, all of the coupons that are printed, a lot of those, you go, oh well, I use that. It's printing those as it's going because it knows what you've purchased. If you
For
used your
sure.
card, and it's saying, well, I'm going to give them coupons for the things we know they buy already, and that'll make them buy more of those things,
Or buy them now because they expires in 3 days. Yeah.
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, my mother-in-law is one of those, bless her, who she brings home like one of these big tubs of oregano. Like, you don't cook to begin with, but it was on sale. Look how much I saved on oregano. Well, you ended up spending 20 times as much to get that big container of oregano, which you're never going to use. It's going to sit in the stairwell for the next 10 years and become a science experiment. But yeah, so surveys, so that idea of like, badges or a point system or rewards, all of that, that's kind of, you're working within a set of rules, and in a way you sort of are competing against the system. Like, how many points can I earn? Can I get to that next? I mean, I'm aware of all of this, and I still have found myself in a store going, oh, if I was $10 more, then I'd be getting and so then I'm looking around the store trying to figure out, well, what can I add to my cart to get to that threshold, or free shipping? Yeah, exactly. So any of those sorts of things, you're kind of incorporating. It's kind of a little end gamey, but it's you think you're playing against the system and you're earning these things and so on. So they're obviously trying to motivate you for financial reasons. They want you to spend more money, but it's that sort of an idea, right? Any of you with kids, they won't clean their room. So, oh, well, let's see who can clean their room fastest. And whoever cleans their room fastest gets an extra 10 minutes on the gaming, 10 minutes of screen time or something, right? There you've taken something they really don't want to clean their rooms, but now you've put them against each other, and whoever gets done fastest, so there's your end game, whoever gets there first, and they get the reward at the end of getting the extra 10 minutes of screen time. And then they hate each other because the one who didn't get it done fastest doesn't get the screen time, and then they get all mopey because, yeah, but both rooms are clean, so you win. You're really the person, you're one of the competing agents, they just don't know it. Like, I made you clean your rooms, so. But anything along those lines. So, I mean, honestly, we could probably go into this a lot more, but this kind of it makes sense, right? So basically, you're looking for things, activities that normally are not very motivational, self-motivational, and then you're looking at, well, how can I incorporate items or elements that are typical of games and make that thing more motivational, make kids want to do it more. I mean, Kahoot is kind of a perfect example. We've already talked about how Kahoot really isn't a true game, but it takes something that students may not want to do normally, which is whatever, review questions about vocabulary or whatever questions you're asking, and all of a sudden, because they're like doing this and there's music and they get points and they can put in their avatar name and all that stuff, like all of a sudden they're like competing against each other, and they want to answer the questions and they want to answer them quickly. So that would be another kind of perfect example of the gamification kind of idea. So where we're going with this, the actual project, and what I asked, no, that's the other class. Never mind, I did not say that. Basically, the overview of this project is you're going to kind of do what I just said. You're going to pick an activity, and it could be something educational. This isn't really even so much about education at this point. So it could be something from your classroom. Several teachers in the past, especially teachers of younger kids, have used some variation of the getting the students to do what they're supposed to do when they come into the classroom in the morning, like they're supposed to do this, and then hang this up, and then hand this thing in. And so it could be something from your classroom, or it could honestly just be something from your daily life or from your work or from whatever. But the idea is going to be to select an activity from your classroom or from work or from daily life that has low built-in motivation. Then you're going to develop a plan for how you could incorporate game elements into that, how you could gamify that activity, rules, competing agents, decisions, endgame in some combination. You don't have to use, obviously, all of them. Sometimes just getting one of them in there. And then this is one, we're actually going to go practical with this. There is going to be a little ID plan for this. Not yet. I didn't even put it up here yet because I don't want people getting too stressed out about it. But you will do a quick little design of this. And then you're actually going to implement the activity. So this is one we're actually going to try out for real, actually get some real world data on this. So at some point between now and the end of the course, this activity that you have reworked and gamified, you're going to actually try out with an audience and try to see whether the gamifying of it had any noticeable impact on what they did. I'm not taking this into full research mode. You're not going to have to develop, all the data and the graphs and the p value. Who are the math people? Like the standard variance and the analysis. That's it. Yeah. No, this is going to be much more subjective in a way,
So
but
anecdotal is what you're looking for?
yes, sort of more along those lines. So, if you have some hard data and it's an activity you've done in your classroom and you know that the results have been this, and after you do it, the results have been this, that's great. But that's really more about like just what and how can we use this in normal everyday sort of activities. So, and then we will do, assuming that we can all actually meet, but if not, we'll do it online somehow. This one will be able to complete the ADDIE plan because we actually will implement it and you'll be able to evaluate it afterwards. And then we will sort of present our findings at some point to everybody else to see how it all went. So the only piece, and I'll talk about this again when I go over the homework, is there is a forum posted. It is just, all it's about this time around is just throwing out the basic idea of what you might be gamifying and maybe some initial thoughts about it. And it's just a way to then have other people maybe look at what you're doing and say, oh yeah, I've had this problem too, and I tried doing this or something like that. So there is this one forum for this class over the next couple of weeks. Selecting it, you describe it, you explain why it's not very motivational right now, and then come up with 2 or 3 ways that you might think of gamifying the activity. And then other people will look at your posts and give some feedback and maybe have some other ideas. So this, you're not actually developing the official instructional design for this yet. The next couple of weeks are just about kind of coming up with an idea of something you want to try gamifying. All right? So is that?
So it should be something that we would be doing with our class in like, say, like 3 or 4, like when?
Yeah.
For me, I have to try and.
Yeah, you would probably be ready to start implementing this, say, approximately a month from now. Maybe a little sooner, maybe a little later, but I mean, you figure the next 2 weeks we're not even together. Our next class meeting, whether it's here or somewhere else, I'll go over this in more specifics next time and assign the instructional design piece of it. So by the week after that, you might be ready to have something that you could actually start deploying. Or it might take you another week after that to kind of really get settled. But yeah, roughly a month-ish from
I'm just
now.
trying to figure out
And
what
is it-
concept I might be like that
Yeah.
far out. Like this week I could do similarity, but if it's in
Yeah.
4 weeks,
And again, this is also an opportunity to maybe think outside the normal teaching classroom sorts of things. It doesn't necessarily have to be an educational activity. I've had people just literally do things like, I can't get my kids to put their laundry in the laundry basket, right?
But do we have to have something physical to?
I mean, it
like,
should
I'm
be an
not saying
activity.
It's an activity, but so use your example of the morning routine in class. So whatever she did or he did or whatever they decided to do, I would love to know because that is definitely a problem in my room. But say I just said, okay, if you follow the rule, I give you this ticket, whatever. So we just are going to be explaining it. We don't have to like have a Kahoot made or a Zoom made or
No, I mean, if you're just
Video
handing out
made.
tickets, then you'd just be handing out
But I
the
mean, there'd
tickets.
be more to it than just the ticket part because that already doesn't work. So I'm just
Got
saying.
yeah. So
but I
whatever
mean,
solution you come up
yeah,
with,
that doesn't work.
yeah, it does. It should be something that you can actually try out in the real world.
Right.
So you will, whatever it is you come up with, it
And
should be
more
something that is
interesting than tickets, clearly.
executable. Yeah, I mean, like our school,
Start
this
handing
whole
out copies.
yeah, there you go. This whole PBIS. Do you guys know what that?
Yeah.
Our school has this ticket system, and
That's
each-
what I'm talking about.
yeah, each teacher has an envelope of tickets, and if they see students doing
Yeah.
things they're supposed to
Yeah.
get, and then the students can take those tickets to the office where there are raffle
Same.
things they can put the
Yeah.
raffles in, and then they get drawn and
Yeah.
all of that. So
Wait, that doesn't motivate them?
No.
Do you guys have like a menu where they can do different things?
No.
Yeah.
so these are the
Yes.
kinds of ideas. Like if you want to go that route, put that up here, and then maybe other people might have some ideas too that they could throw out about. Okay, well the tickets aren't working, so what about or what
do they
about?
want?
Or,
Yeah.
yeah.
No, they
So
want candy or screen time. I don't want them to
Say candy or food.
Like,
so anyway, so.
maybe that one.
So that's kind of the framework for this, is the next couple of weeks are just about brainstorming an activity you think you could use and getting feedback from other people. I will talk about the specifics of the instructional design piece of it in our next class. And then sometime within the week or two after that, you should be ready to actually try it out. It doesn't even need to be a long-term thing. It could be something you just try one day or something like that. And then we'll debrief on the other side with some reflection and so on. So, all right, any other questions about this at this point? I kind of want to get this out of the way so that then we can go on to the real thing for tonight, which is the, really, you won't let me go back? Oh, because it opened a new tab, that's why. All right, so the main thing tonight, the main event, is getting some feedback on your games. So we have, I mean, obviously there's currently 8 of us here. The 9th one is on his way and may actually be showing up momentarily. Not sure exactly what his drive time is, but he did leave about 5 minutes before 5. So we basically have 3 groups that each have 3 people in them. So my idea was to do a couple of rounds where one person from each group stays with their group. They will be the only person in their group, but they stay with their game. And that person will be the one who's tasked with presenting or talking about the game to the people who are coming to them. And the other 2 people from that group will then split up and go one each to each of the other groups. And that their role in that case is just to be the listener and so on. So, and then if we do a second round of it, then we are guaranteed that everybody will have had a chance to kind of experience all of the different games and get a couple rounds of feedback. You may decide if there's one person in your group who's really, really good at explaining what the game is, they can stay and be the presenter both times. If on the second round somebody else wants to take over so that the person who was explaining can go out and look at one of the other games, you can do that too. Doesn't really matter to me as long as at any given moment we have one person from each of the 3 game groups in the 3 groups, one person just presenting the other people feedback. So the goal is to, as best as you can, explain the current state of your game. Kind of think of what you've been answering in your instructional design. And in fact, if you even want to pull that up on your screen and have that there as a reference, but you know, what's the problem you're trying to solve with the game? Who are you building the game for? You know, what sort of standards are you working within, or what content are you working within? So go through that. And then, you know, however far you've gotten in terms of the kind of game it's going to be, think of the stuff we talked about last week. Is it a board game? Is it a card game? Is it a, you know, trivia game? And anything that you may know at this point about rough gameplay. I don't expect that there are rules at this point or finished gameplay aspects. But basically, the more you can present, even if they're rough ideas tonight, then that gives the people who are listening more to respond to. And as I said before, last year at least one of the groups, if not a couple of the groups, found some really helpful suggestions in what they got back from the other groups and made significant changes in the directions of their game because of things that got suggested. So that's really the bottom line of tonight. So we'll start with one round, and you know, I'll play it by ear in terms of timing, but when it looks like groups have kind of played out the discussion, we will rotate and remix and do it again. And then after that, I'll give the groups time to come together as a group and kind of debrief about what you learned about your own game, but you may also see things happening in other games that may spark ideas in your mind too. So we'll debrief after that, and then I'll kind of wrap up this part of this class for tonight, and we'll at that point start transitioning. So I don't know, it's probably going to be 10, 15 minutes or something to do, kind of present and get the feedback and have a discussion. So we're roughly 5:45, so somewhere maybe 5 of 6, 6 o'clock. We'll switch around a bit and then go from there. So one group is down one person right now. So one of you will stay and present. The other one just go to one of the other groups. And then if Mike shows up, we can throw him in with the other group. And then hopefully he'll be here maybe by the time the second round happens. So
You want to present, or I can try to present. Either way. I'll try.
So we can have maybe one group station will be up here, and another group stationed back there, and another group stationed up here. So then the other 2 people in a group just split up and go to other places.
I apologize that this week I didn't see what you had written down.
Okay.